Let's have a Democratic vote with a small d. Let's let the House vote on all the options, and I believe Mr. Courtney's option to leave the rates at 3.4% would and should prevail. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll continue to reserve.
Gentlelady reserves. Gentlelady from New York.
Mr. Speaker, I'm delighted to yield 2 minutes to the gentlelady from Connecticut, Mr. Lauro.
The gentlelady from Connecticut is recognized for 2 minutes.
I rise in opposition to this bill. Why? It increases the cost of student debt for millions of Americans just trying to continue their education. It is just another example of the House majority who would put a further burden on the middle class and working families. Without broad access to a good college education and the opportunities and the social mobility that it provides, there will be no middle class in America. The compact will be broken that allows hard work to pay off and allows future generations to do better. The costs of college are high today. Over the last 30 years, the average tuition at a four-year state university has almost quadrupled. 60% of Americans now borrow money for college. Student loan debt last year passed the $1 trillion mark. The average student loan debt among graduating seniors is over $26,000, a heavy burden to carry into a tough job market. This bill would compound those costs. A student with that level of debt would pay over $5,300 more in interest than they would if the current interest rates were extended, leaving them at 3.4%. But this is characteristic of the Republican majority. Let me just give you an example and what they view about the opportunity for education. In the last election, their standard bearer, Mitt Romney, when he was asked the question about increasing the student loan interest rate, this is what he replied. He said that if students need to borrow money, let them go to their parents. Well, if your father is the head of American Motors, then in fact you can go and get a loan from your parents. But if they are not, and what struggling parents are doing today is if their jobs have either gone or their wages are down or their health benefits are gone or their home may be underwater on a mortgage because of the crushing recession that we have had, and they're telling their children that they can't afford to send them to college, they can't go to their parents for a loan. That's where my Republican colleagues would take this issue. And instead of us here adding further to students' debt, we should work harder to make college more affordable for families. Let us not let those interest rates double this summer. This bill moves us in the wrong direction. I urge my colleagues to vote against it.
The gentlelady's time has expired. The chair will receive a message.
Mr. Speaker, a message from the Senate.
Mr. Speaker,
Madam Secretary.
I have been directed by the Senate to inform the House that the Senate has passed without amendment H.R. 258, cited as the Stolen Value Act of 2013.
Gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
How much time? 3 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my colleagues are concerned about the predictability of the market. What about the predictability of Congress? Congress is the source of this volatility. Our bill protects students if interest rates rise with caps. Not even President Obama's plan does that. Mr. Speaker, with that, I'd like to recognize my distinguished colleague from Georgia for 3 minutes.
Recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my friend from North Carolina for yielding me the time and really appreciate her leadership on this issue. You know, Mr. Speaker, I tell the young people when I speak to them back home, I say, turn on C-SPAN. If you don't have cable, don't buy cable. Go to your friend's house to watch it, but turn on C-SPAN, and every person who comes to the House floor is going to say whatever they're doing today, no matter what it is that they're doing it for the young people. They're doing it for that next generation. The next generation can have a better life. And I hear that from every single one of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. We want to come down here and we want to defeat this rule today and we want to defeat this bill today and we want to do it for the young people. Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm down here for the young people of my district too. The young people of my district say, Rob, what about our prosperity? What about our future? What about fiscal responsibility? Why are you and previous generations doing to us what you're doing? How can we have a guaranteed access to opportunity, not guaranteed success, but guaranteed access to opportunity going forward? And the answer is, when we get out of the business of playing political games with every single issue, every single day, and we get back into the business of providing some certainty. Mr. Speaker, you remember how we got in this predicament today. We got in this predicament because when my friends on the left were in control and they began to deal with student loan rates, at the time they said a 6% rate would be good. At the time they said a 4.5% rate would be good. Now suddenly only a 3.4% rate can be good. With every single one of these changes, Mr. Speaker, there are economic consequences. We now know in America today student loan debt is greater than all credit card debt combined. It's an amazing burden that we're passing on to the next generation. We're not giving them opportunity. We're ensuring decades of servitude. This bill, Mr. Speaker, begins to realign marketplace rates with student loan rates, giving every student a tremendously subsidized federal rate. And here's the thing, Mr. Speaker. You hear this debate, it's as if this very small portion of the marketplace, these 3.4% subsidized loans, are the end-all, be-all to every student in America. Not true. Not true. As my friends on the other side of the aisle know perfectly well, but never say, more than 70% of all of our students take out both subsidized and unsubsidized loans. And as my friends on the left know perfectly well, but never say, they leave those unsubsidized rates at 6.8%. The bill that Ms. Fox has worked on so carefully with Chairman Klein brings those rates down to 4.5. Maybe even 4.4. We'll see in that last week of Treasury markets in May, but we're tying the fiscal realities of this country to opportunities for our students. I encourage students, Mr. Speaker, look at your bills, look at your rates, look at the subsidized and the unsubsidized. You will see what this bill will do for you. I rise in strong support, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate your
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentlelady from New York is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to yield 2.5 minutes to the gentleman from Colorado and a member of the Committee on Rules, Mr. Polis.
The gentleman from Colorado is recognized for 2.5 minutes.
I thank the gentlelady from New York. T-minus 38 days. 38 days until student loan interest rates are scheduled to increase from 3.4 to 6.8%. Mr. Speaker, in my district in Colorado, students trying to finance their education through federally subsidized loans at the University of Colorado and Colorado State University and our other fine universities, and indeed across the country, simply can't afford, in a low interest rate environment today with a sluggish economy, to have their rates double in 38 days. Look, there's been a lot of good ideas that have been presented that would allow student loan rates to remain the same or even get better. We had in our committee, the Education and Labor Committee, a Courtney amendment, which I supported, our Democratic substitute, to keep them at 3.4%. There was even proposals to lower them beyond that. I have a bipartisan bill with Representative Petri that moves the program over to earning contingent education loans so that repayment amounts are contingent upon how much somebody is earning. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, I oppose the rule because it hasn't allowed any of these ideas to be brought forward to the floor. I was glad to see our ranking member, Mr. Miller, bring forth the President's proposal, which includes earnings contingent education loans. Unfortunately, the Rules Committee did not make it in order under this rule, which is why I oppose it. Now, the underlying bill is a step in the right direction towards the President's proposal. I think it provides a framework which we need to improve upon in the Senate and work with the administration over the next 38 days to prevent student loan rates from doubling. Now, first of all, to be clear, the proposal before us on the underlying bill is not the President's proposal. It does not include a robust earnings contingent income-based repayment program. It also charges a higher rate of interest above the 10-year Treasury note. To its credit, the Klein-Fox bill does include a cap on interest rates, which is very borrower-friendly and student-friendly. But again, what's critical here is it provides a framework for moving forward over the next 38 days to resolve this issue and prevent student loan rates from doubling. The Washington Post editorialized on this 2 days ago and said that the Education and Workforce Committee bill is, quote-unquote, a similar policy, end quote, to President Obama's policy, namely pegging the student loan rates to a rate at which the government borrows, providing more certainty to borrowers and helping make sure that college can remain affordable. I call upon my colleagues to oppose the rule and consider the underlying bill.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, America's college students, especially those who've studied math, understand that if Washington can't get its act together, their generation will be stuck paying the tab. So they have little sympathy for elected leaders who refuse to face reality by pretending that recklessly spending money we don't have will somehow translate into economic prosperity. It's time to face the simple truth. Government spending won't fix our economy. America's growing debt is real, and Congress has a responsibility to deal with it. The first step must be reining in government spending by passing a balanced budget. That is why House Republicans took the lead and passed H. Con. Res. 25, the Path to Prosperity budget. Our budget brings spending discipline back to Washington, which balances the budget in 10 years, provides for comprehensive tax reform without raising tax rates, and removes many of the regulatory barriers that prevent employers from hiring new graduates. The House Republican budget stops spending money we don't have by cutting waste, fixing our broken tax code, and balancing in 10 years. A balanced budget will promote a healthier economy, create more jobs for graduating students, and put more money in Americans' pockets. Our budget provides economic security for workers and families, ensures a secure retirement for the elderly, repairs the safety net, and expands opportunity for graduating students entering the workforce. Republicans have passed a bold budget that tackles America's most pressing fiscal challenges and grows our economy today to ensure the next generation inherits a stronger, more prosperous America. Mr. Speaker, one of the best things we could do for college students now and in the future is to provide a stronger economy. And with that, I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentlelady reserves. The gentlelady from New York is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I hope my friend's comments mean that the Republicans are ready to appoint conferees, and I'm pleased to yield 1 minute to the gentlewoman from New York, my colleague, Ms. Clark.
Gentlewoman from New York is recognized for 1 minute.
Today I rise in opposition to this rule and the underlying bill, H.R. 1911, Smarter Solutions for Students Act, the so-called Republican solution to address the impending student loan interest rate rise. Despite their rhetoric, the Republicans do not want the American economy more competitive. If they did, they would not have introduced this bill. Under the current law, student loan interest rates are fixed. However, H.R. 1911 would change that, and student interest rates would become variable rates based on the Treasury interest rate plus additional percentage points. This is truly a bait and switch, where students could start their college careers with a 5% student interest rate, but by the time they reach their senior year, 7.7 to 8.5% student rate. Education has traditionally been and still remains a path out of poverty and into the middle class. And it is the middle class that has historically been the backbone of the American society. Instead of doing the right thing by permanently lowering student interest rates, the Republicans have once again decided to do things the wrong way. The Republicans just don't get it. Oppose this rule and the underlying bill. I yield back.
Gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my colleagues allege, quote, the Republican bill raises interest rates on students when we should be providing them with relief from their student loan debt. But let me respond to that, Mr. Speaker. The Smarter Solutions for Students Act will lower the interest rates for all new borrowers in the Stafford Loan and PLUS Loan programs, rather than just extend an artificially low rate to a small subset of borrowers. This makes federal loans more affordable for all incoming students and parents. The underlying bill helps all students, including those borrowers receiving subsidized loans whose loans are slated to double based on the irresponsible actions of the other side. The bill includes a reasonable cap, something missing in the administration's budget, which protects borrowers in high interest rate environments. If Democrats think the 8.5% cap is too high, then let's see their fiscally responsible paid-for proposal to back up their rhetoric. The legislation also maintains current law allowing borrowers to take out a consolidation loan after graduation, where they can lock in their interest rate for the life of the loan. Students can also take advantage of a number of repayment plans and debt management initiatives, such as income-based repayment program, loan forgiveness programs, and opportunities for deferment or forbearance. The Smarter Solution for Students Act is a comprehensive, responsible solution that will benefit all students and parents. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentlelady reserves. The gentlelady from New York is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, if we defeat the previous question, I will offer an amendment to the rule that will allow the House to vote on the Veterans Backlog Restoration Act. And to discuss our proposal, I am pleased to yield 4 minutes to the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Ennert.
The gentleman from Illinois is recognized for 4 minutes.
I thank the gentlelady from New York. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of H.R. 1739, the Veterans Backlog Reduction Act. As a retired military veteran, one of my top priorities is caring for our veterans. The sad fact is the VA is not honoring its commitment to our veterans today. There are currently over 900,000 claims waiting to be processed, and the average wait for that backlog is now 272 days, or nearly 9 months. These are real people, real American heroes who deserve disability benefits because they sustained injuries in service to our country. One of these is Michael Boren of Energy, Illinois. Michael came home from active duty in Iraq and Afghanistan with nerve damage, an injured back, and other physical problems. By every measure, Michael is legitimately deserving disability benefits. The reason I know about Michael is because he contacted my office a few months ago when he was at the end of his rope and in danger of losing his home. Permanently disabled from his injuries sustained in service, he is unable to find gainful employment to sustain himself and his family, and the VA couldn't coordinate his paperwork to make a ruling on his claim for nearly 19 months, all while he waited and worried without income. Too many veterans like Michael are threatened with home foreclosure, having their cars repossessed, their credit cards cut off, all because the VA can't get its act together. It's shameful. And despite promises from the VA to reduce the backlog, just yesterday we learned the backlog is actually increasing, and the VA hasn't met a single one of its benchmarks. The solution is the Veterans Backlog Reduction Act. It says the VA has 125 days to process claims filed by disabled veterans. If the VA can't live up to a reasonable timetable in processing these claims, then disabled veterans will get a provisional payment until a final ruling is made. If the claim is ultimately deemed valid, then the remainder of the disability benefits will be paid out. If the claim is denied, then the veteran is held harmless and would not have to repay the provisional benefit unless there would be a finding of fraud or bad faith on the part of the veteran. The goal is to get these claims processed in a timely manner, and it's my belief that this legislation gives the VA a powerful reason to clean up its act and speed up the process. This bill serves as a lifeline to countless veterans who can't wait months or years for this problem to be solved. Our veterans are demanding leadership now. This is not a Democrat or a Republican issue. Taking proper care of our wounded veterans is an American issue. This is a national embarrassment, and we in Congress must meet it head on. It is my hope that we can restore the trust veterans have lost in their government to care for them when they need it most. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to inquire of the gentlewoman from New York if she's prepared to close.
Mr. Speaker, I am prepared to close if my colleague has no further requests for time.
I'll reserve and allow my colleague to close.
Gentlelady from North Carolina reserves. Gentlelady from New York is recognized.
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I wish we were debating legislation that I thought might actually have a possibility of becoming law, but we are not. I ask unanimous consent to insert the text of the amendment in the record, along with extraneous material, immediately prior to the vote on the previous question. I urge my colleagues to vote no and defeat the previous question and think about Memorial Day and Mr. Enart's proposal to take care of the veterans' backlog. I hope that we are successful in getting that done, and then I urge a no vote on the rule, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentlelady yields back. The gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, House Republicans are committed to providing more opportunities for more Americans and helping make life work for more families. This legislation is a great step in that direction. Student borrowers deserve more than platitudes and empty promises. They deserve real solutions that will improve their lives and help them achieve success. Our conservative solutions to the challenges facing young Americans today are the right solutions, and the results will speak for themselves. Therefore, I urge my colleagues to vote for this rule and the underlying bill. I yield back the balance of my time, and I move the previous question on the resolution.
The question is on ordering the previous question on the resolution. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the Chair, the ayes have it.
May I request the yeas and nays, Mr. Speaker?
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. Pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20, the Chair will reduce to 5 minutes the minimum time for any electronic vote on the question of adoption of the resolution. This is a 15-minute vote.
So the House holding its first series of votes this morning as members approach the Memorial Day break beginning Friday. Lawmakers have been debating a bill that would prevent student loan interest rates from doubling this July 1st. Rates are currently set to go from 3.4% to 6.8%. To help prevent this from happening in the future, this bill would also tie student loan interest rates to activity in the financial markets. So 2 votes in this series, including a vote on the rule for debate. And so this will be a 15-minute vote. And as members are voting, we are opening our phone lines as we want to get your thoughts on the student loan debate. Should they be allowed to double at the beginning of July, or do you favor the congressional proposal that would keep rates from doubling, and then the longer-term solution of tying student loan rates to what's happening in the markets? 202-585-3885 we've set aside for Democrats, 202-585-3886 for Republicans. We are taking others' calls at 202-585-3887, and we do have a separate line set aside for students. Students only at 202-585-3888. As we prepare to take your calls, the Senate gavelled in this morning at 9:30. Senators offering general speeches for just a couple more minutes, and then at 10:30 we'll turn to a judicial nomination for the U.S. Appeals Court. That'll actually possibly happen a little bit later. The Senate is expected to vote on the nomination later, and then a vote on a Farm Bill amendment. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders proposing to let states require that genetically engineered food be labeled as such. So watch all of that debate in the Senate on our companion network, C-SPAN 2. Our first call is from Tara, who is in Boston. Tara, go ahead. Okay, well, let me repeat the numbers again. 202-585-3885 for Democrats, 202-585-3886 for Republicans, 202-585-3887 for all others. We are also receiving your tweets at the hashtag student loans. Congressman Mark Veazey has tweeted, student loans are making it hard for graduates to pursue certain careers because they don't generate enough income to repay debt. Mama Loves Lipstick tweets, I was born before the caveman and didn't have student loans back then. Good thing, or we'd be in debt up to my nose hole. And Sarkazona has tweeted, because adjustable rates worked out so well for mortgages, let's try it on student loans. Shanaka is calling from Phoenix, Arizona on the others line. Go ahead.
Yes, well, I'm a student at Grand Canyon University in Phoenix, Arizona, and it's hard enough just trying to get books and whatnot, and I definitely think that the student loan should not be doubled. It would be really ridiculous for that to be.
Have you been listening to the House debate?
Yes, I've been listening to the House debate, and the things that I've heard as far as the Republican vote on saying that the rate should be doubled is ridiculous. A lot of us are struggling just to get by. I don't see how it will be possible for us to be able to afford that.
Thanks for your call from Phoenix. Next to Colleen. She is calling from New Jersey. Is that Villas, New Jersey?
Yes.
And she's calling on the Republicans line.
Yes. I was raised a Republican. My parents are still Republicans. However, the way they have gone about the student loan debt, to me, it's incomprehensible. How they expect us, the middle class, that they always rave about, we're the backbone, but they're draining us dry. I've already called representatives. I ask that anyone who is listening, call your representatives, voice your opinion. This is just too much on us. I have 2 boys in college. My daughter graduated. Her tuition's paid. However, with my boys, what am I going to do? Lose my house? Mortgage my house again to pay off their student loans? It's not right that there is no work really being done down there. People are starting to get furious about it. I am involved in local politics. I'm trying to make a change for these kids. They are waking up, and when they do, they're not going to like what it is in their future. The corporations getting richer while they get poorer. There will be a revolt. I see it with all the kids where I live. We're in a low-income community. However, I'm not. We're in a low-income community because we are seasonally employed.
And where do your kids go to school?
Atlantic Cape Community College, Penn State.
Thanks, Colleen. Thanks for calling in. Robert is calling for... Actually, I'm sorry. We'll get to Robert in just a second. This is Christina from Berlin, Maryland. She's a student. And where do you go to school, Christina?
I go to Warwick Community College. I'd like to see student loans stay the same, or Lord knows it'd be wonderful if they were lowered. I'm personally afraid to go to a 4-year university because of student loans. It's scary thinking about the amount of debt you're going to be in just so that you can get a good job to spend the rest of your life paying them.
Robert is Millers Creek, and that's where?
North Carolina.
Okay, thanks for calling from North Carolina on the Independence line.
I am opposed to raising the student loan rate. I would also like to comment, being from a heavily Republican district, how in the world they keep electing Virginia Foxx to Congress. Thank you.
Joyce is in Mesa, Arizona, calling on the Democrats line.
Hello.
Go ahead, Joyce.
Oh, yes. I'm a former student, and I had to drop out of class because of the school that offered me a student loan that I didn't need, and I tried to find out how you fight this. I'm a veteran, and the VA sent me to the school, approved the school for me. But somehow the school turned it in that I defaulted on the loan. I signed some paper I never did. I don't know how to fight it, but now my credit is destroyed because I'm being charged with owing student loans that I never took, because it doesn't make sense. If you know the government is going to pay 100% of your education, why would you sign for student loans? I'm a disabled vet, so I don't really know what to do. I'm still fighting it. even at this age, it's been quite a long time. And this school, Kaplan College, is just doing the same thing. They even have a record of doing these kind of things to students. They need to investigate that first before they start charging students. I'm on a fixed income, and I cannot hardly make it on what I'm getting from the VA, and that's the only income that I have. So I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, and I do need help, and I don't know where to go. So I thank you for letting me talk on this line, and I'm still going to call C-SPAN. If I have to open my veterans records up and the papers up, I will mail them out and just let the public see what's been happening to me over these years.
Thanks for your call, Joyce. Dakota, Vancouver, Washington, on the students line. Go ahead, Dakota. And where do you go to school?
I go to Clark Community College.
And that is where?
Vancouver, Washington.
Okay.
I know with all the student loan interest, I honestly think it's a bad idea because, you know, I'm working full-time and I still have to go to school, and, you know, all my extra money is going to paying for my school. So, you know, honestly, like, I see what money is getting spent on in this country, and I see it should be more going to, you know, the students, the people that will be providing jobs for the future, you know, making this country better. But it gets spent on, you know, other things. And then who's getting stuff paid for it? I mean, the students, the people that want to make a change in the world. And, you know, it's kind of saddening. But, I mean, it's just how our system is right now. That's all I have to say, though. I hope you have a good day.
Next, Catherine. Catherine calling from Delaware. Catherine, you're calling on the Republicans line.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd just like to make a short comment. No, I definitely do not think that any of the tuition fees should be raised for any of the students. Both of my children graduated from the University of Delaware, and it cost a small fortune. We feel like we own part of the school. And, you know, I hear people calling and referring to those Republicans or those Democrats. Well, from this one Republican, I don't think the Republican Party or the Democratic Party are doing what the citizens out in this wonderful country of ours want them to do. Somehow they seem to go to Washington and forget all the stuff that they tell us they're going to do to represent us when they go. And I'm very disappointed in both parties, and it makes me cringe when I hear people say those Republicans or those Democrats, because they aren't representing me, and I don't think they're representing the majority of the wonderful citizens that love America across this great nation of ours. Thank you.
And thank you. And as votes continue coming in, we continue taking your calls on the student loan debate happening in Congress. Jennifer is a student in San Antonio, Texas, on the others line, on the students line.
Hello, my name is Jennifer. I'm currently a student in San Antonio College. And first and foremost, I want to thank, of course, the government for helping me out with education. Without government, I would not be able to go to school. And also, I want to say it takes a lot of courage to actually invest into 4 years of school. And basically, when the government invests into students and helps them out, we will be very happy to return the investment once we are professionals, once we have a higher education. So again, it will really, really help students to focus on their school, to focus on their educational goals without being worried constantly of how to repay everything, and without being worried of how those numbers are rising, and basically they will have to pay much, much, much more than they initially borrowed. So basically this was my opinion. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Hold on just a second, Jennifer. How much of your education is coming out of your pocket? How much of your education are you paying for outside of loans?
Previously, some semesters I paid out of pocket. Currently, all of education is coming completely from student loans.
Thanks for your call. Next to Irma. Irma in Biloxi, Mississippi, Democrats line.
Yes, I don't think that the rates should be raised on the student loans, and I'm just sitting here wondering, where are the Democrats at? The Republicans have 55 and the Democrats has only 35. Where are our Democrats at? Don't we have enough of them?
Well, there's still plenty of time left in the vote, so we could see that change. We thank you for your call. Another student, we're calling, listening to Mike. Mike is calling from Merritt Island.
Yes, hello.
Good morning.
Go ahead, Mike.
I oppose the increase. I understand the financial overall burden, but I think at this time, it's not going to be in the interest of the students to increase their finances. Unfortunately, politically, they're debating something I think that most students would disagree with. It's unfortunate that, we spent a lot of money on a war and we're paying for it now, but I don't think that burden should be shifted to students. I'm a veteran that's just recently enrolled, and I'm only going to be able to do 1 year with the assist they give me, and then I would have to pay out-of-pocket expenses for the rest of my education. And in all reality, with the income I receive, I couldn't afford it. So that's my comment. Thank you.
And thanks for calling. Kenneth Ware, Jr. says, according to a new Wells Fargo study, 1/3 of millennials regret going to college due to burdensome student loans. That's a tweet we received from him. We are taking your remarks via your tweets at Student Loans, and the hashtag is Student Loans once again. Next to Michael. Michael in Denham Springs. Denham Springs is where, Michael?
In Louisiana.
You're calling on the Independence line. Thanks for calling.
Yes. I just, I'm a student. I'm 50 years old.
Where do you go to school?
I'm currently taking courses from LSU. And I went back to school after several years to pursue my education. And, the thing about it is I'm tired of the student loan issue being politicized. It's like they want to hold us hostage to this thing. And, education to me, I've gotten a second chance in life. And I'm pursuing my education as a substance use counselor and a social worker, and I'm thankful that the opportunity has been given to me, and it's only because of student loans that I was able to pursue school again, pursue my education, and I just hope that it doesn't get politicized. That's the issue, because education in this country is first and foremost as far as I'm concerned. Our workforce is dependent on it, and our workforce in this country is dependent on whether or not we have the educated individuals to be able to pursue some of the goals that this country needs to pursue in order for economic well-being to take place.
Mansour calling from Peoria, Arizona on the student loan, correct?
Correct. Hi, Mansour Matthew Hamid. I'm a student at Glendale Community College. That's, I guess, it's kind of like Phoenix, Arizona, close to it if you're not from around here. And I'm outraged right now. Currently, the student loan rate is already too high, and there's a lot of evidence that kind of supports that. Degrees aren't worth what they used to be, but they cost twice as much in some cases as what they did 10 years ago. And, I mean, this has a lasting effect. The greatness of America has everything to do with its creative people, with its education level. If we don't educate ourselves, then you know what? We're going to just start outsourcing our doctors to like India or wherever. I mean, it's ridiculous. And so I hope that right now we have some more Democrats voting against this. But right now, I mean, I don't know. I think the Republicans should be ashamed of themselves because there really is no reason, no justification for increasing the student loan debt. As it is, the programs themselves cost too much money and provide too little. So then to also have to pay a higher rate on it is ridiculous.
To Palmetto, Florida, Republicans line, Lynn is calling.
Hello. I'm coming in with a different perspective than everybody here. I used to work in the student loan industry, and what I did was I counseled people that were in default who didn't know how to get out of default, people who had multiple student loans at multiple rates. What it allowed them to do was if they had some loans at 6.8% fixed, some loans at 3.0 variable, when they graduated and had the option of consolidating their loans, you would take the weighted average of those loans and consolidate them together and make it a lower interest rate. For instance, it would consolidate at maybe a fixed 5% rate. A lot of people don't realize that with the benefit of consolidation that they have and the ability to be able to get those loans at a different rate, renewing the forbearance and deferment. A lot of people have used up their forbearance and their deferment time, and the benefit of consolidating those loans at multiple rates is getting a lower rate and allowing it an easier time to pay off their loans. For instance, the lady that was in default who had no idea what to do, 9 months on-time payments allows her to get out of default and will allow her, if she qualifies, to consolidate those loans and possibly renew her forbearance and deferment time. There's a ton of different laws and rules out there that a lot of the students don't know about. I think perhaps just like in college it's mandatory to take a computer literacy class, perhaps people that are borrowing student loans, maybe we should offer a one-credit class teaching these people about the options that they have with their student loans.
Do you work at a school?
Not at this time, no, but previously, back prior to 2006, when interest rates were fixed at 6.8%, I worked for Indiana Secondary Market.
So right now you're doing this counseling where? Are you working with a bank or?
To work with the school, St. Pete College.
What do you think about the proposal, the House proposal to tie increases in student loan rates to what's happening in the markets?
I think that what's happening in the market, I mean, we can forecast the future, but we're really not sure what's going to happen in the market. I think that student loan rates being at a variable rate gives people an opportunity of getting a lower rate or having loans at different rates, so that way after they consolidate, perhaps it will get to a lower rate. But with fixed rates, you're stuck at that fixed rate, and you can't get out of that fixed rate no matter what you do.
Thanks, Lynn. Thanks for your call. Next to Ames, Iowa, Steve is our last caller on the Democrats line.
Thank you for taking my call. My question is, as someone who's been a business owner for a while, when you do something like increase the interest rate or decide you're not going to lock in funds to a fixed rate, you go, well, we'll just go with whatever the market will bear. Aren't you basically saying in business sense that you no longer place a priority on whatever that product or operation is? It seems to me that bait and switch is a legitimate question. The one gentleman mentioned on the floor during the discussion in Congress, it seems like it is bait and switch. It is indicating that education is really not a priority, whereas the Keystone Pipeline, so that we can deliver oil to the Arab-owned companies that own the refineries along the Texas coast, that is an economic priority. And with those kind of priorities showing in what they think is important, the question is a little bit like the old saw, what happens if they declare war and nobody goes? You know, if they don't think financing education is important, then don't go. Thank you.
And thanks for your call, Steve. Thanks for all of your calls. The House continuing this vote on the rule for debating the student loan interest rates bill. Very quickly, a couple of your tweets. Stephen B. tweets, paid off one of my student loans entirely today. Feels great. And we heard from Tim Fry, who says, my favorite part of student loans is the low interest rate that somehow still takes 450 years to pay off. We are expecting an hour of general debate after this. We thank you for your calls.
The yeas are 224, the nays are 195. The previous question is ordered. The question is on adoption of the resolution. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker.
Gentlelady from New York.
Mr. Speaker, I would ask the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote of the yeas and nays will rise and be counted. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This will be a 5-minute vote.
So the House now voting on the second of 2 votes this morning. This is a vote on the rule itself. After this, we do expect an hour of general debate on the student loan bill, which would prevent student loan rates from doubling to 6.8%.
On this vote, the yeas are 224, the nays are 193. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table. For purposes, the gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Klein, seek recognition.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to House Resolution 232, I call up H.R. 1911 and ask for its immediate consideration in the House.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
Union Calendar Number 57, H.R. 1911, a bill to amend the Higher Education Act of 1965 to establish interest rates for new loans made on or after July 1st, 2013.
Pursuant to House Resolution 232, in lieu of the amendment in the nature of a substitute recommended by the Committee on Education and the Workforce printed in the bill, an amendment in the nature of a substitute consisting of the text of Rules Committee Print 113-12 is adopted and the bill as amended is considered read. The gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Klein, and the gentleman from California, Mr. George Miller, each will control 30 minutes. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Minnesota.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material on H.R. 1911.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in strong support of H.R. 1911, the Smarter Solutions for Students Act, and yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're here today to address a crisis of Washington's own making. Several years ago, Congress decided politicians, not the free market,